On the left, Brian Hahn, the town's resident grump, was hunched over his usual black coffee, stirring it like it had personally offended him. He always sat in the same chair, at the same table, at the same time every morning. And, as usual, he kept sneaking glances at her when he thought she wasn't looking. On the right, John Stunn, the Amnesiac mystery man, was enthusiastically munching on a muffin while looking around with childlike wonder, as if he had never seen a cafe before. Which, for all Maddie knew, could actually be true. So, John, Maddie cleared her throat. Still no memories? John shook his head, smiling brightly. Nope, but I do remember that your coffee is amazing, so I'm officially declaring this my new home. Maddie blinked. Your new home? John nodded solemnly. Yep. I've decided to stay here and dedicate my life to figuring out who I am. And since you were the first person I saw when I woke up, I feel like we have a special connection. Across the room, Brian let out a sharp snort. Maddie shot him a glare, but he just took a slow sip of his coffee, eyes glinting with something unreadable. John, Maddie said carefully, I appreciate your enthusiasm. But you can't just decide to live in my cafe. Oh, I won't be in the cafe all the time, John said cheerfully. I can help out. Protect the place, maybe? I get the feeling I'm really good at protecting things. At this, Brian muttered something under his breath that sounded suspiciously like, oh, 4F, but cut himself off with another long sip of coffee. Maddie sighed. Listen, John, I think it would be best if you... The front door burst open, and Mrs. Jenkins, the town's self-declared gossip queen, marched in. Her eyes locked onto Maddie like a heat-seeking missile. Maddie Sterling, she gasped dramatically. Why are there two men fighting for your love? Maddie choked on air. What? No one is. I knew something juicy was happening. Mrs. Jenkins turned to Brian. Are you going to challenge him for dominance? Brian groaned, pinching the bridge of his nose. John, however, perked up. Challenge? Like a duel? He looked at Brian. Should we duel? Maddie dropped her head onto the counter. This town was going to be the death of her. Chapter 2 Maddie was this close to quitting her own cafe. No one is dueling anyone, she snapped, rubbing her temples. Mrs. Jenkins sked. Oh, honey, that's exactly what someone in a love triangle would say. Maddie shot Brian a desperate look, silently begging for backup, but he just sighed and leaned back in his chair, clearly enjoying her misery. John, on the other hand, looked way too interested in the idea of a duel. I don't know why we'd duel, John said, frowning. But I have this strange feeling I'd win. Brian snorted. Doubt it. John narrowed his eyes. Oh, you want to test that, big guy? Brian didn't even look up. No, John pouted. Coward. Maddie slapped a dish towel onto the counter, successfully regaining their attention. Enough. There is no duel, no love triangle, and no fighting for my honor or whatever nonsense you two are imagining. John looked disappointed. Mrs. Jenkins looked thrilled. Brian just looked smug. You sure about that, sweetheart? Brian asked, arching a brow. Maddie groaned. Oh my God, why are you like this? Before Brian could answer, the bell over the door jingled and Maddie's best, and possibly worst, friend, Lily, strolled in. She took one look at Maddie's exhausted face, the two men glaring at each other, and Mrs. Jenkins practically vibrating with excitement, and immediately grinned. Oh wow, Lily said. This looks fun. What did I miss? Maddie's got two men fighting over her, Mrs. Jenkins announced proudly. Maddie grabbed a muffin and threw it at her. Mrs. Jenkins caught it midair, completely unfazed. Lily wiggled her eyebrows. So, do I get to be the best friend giving bad advice? No one is giving bad advice, Maddie snapped. Lily ignored her. Okay, listen. If they have to fight, you should make them do something ridiculous. Like a bake-off. John gasped. I love that idea. Brian rolled his eyes. I'm not baking. Because you're scared? John challenged. Brian shot Maddie a deadpan look. I hate him. Maddie buried her face in her hands. She was never going to have a normal life. Was she? Chapter 3 Maddie considered running. Just grabbing her keys, hopping in her car, and driving until she found a town where people didn't try to duel over her. Unfortunately, she was pretty sure Lily would just hunt her down and drag her back. So, John said excitedly, "When's the bake-off?" Brian let out a suffering sigh. "There is no bake-off. But you're scared to lose, right?" John grinned. "It's okay, man. Some people just aren't born to bake." Brian's eye twitched. Lily, clearly sensing the potential for chaos, leaned against the counter. "You know, Brian, it would be a shame if everyone in town started saying you backed out of a friendly competition." Maddie gaped at her. Lily shrugged. "What?" "I live for drama." Brian clenched his jaw, staring down at his coffee like he was debating whether or not it was worth throwing it at someone. "Fine," he muttered. John cheered. Mrs. Jenkins clapped. Maddie groaned. "You all suck." "Oh, hush," Mrs. Jenkins said. "This is the most entertainment I've had since Greg forgot his anniversary and had to sleep in his car for a week." Maddie wanted to scream. Instead, she took a deep breath and turned to Brian. "You do know how to bake, right?" Brian looked deeply insulted. "Of course I do." John frowned. "Really? You don't seem like the baking type." Brian smirked. "You don't seem like the winning type." John gasped. "Oh, it is on." Maddie sighed. "I hope you both lose." Lily beamed. "This is the best day of my life." The worst part? The entire town would probably show up to watch. Maddie was doomed. Chapter 4, the day of the bake-off arrived, and somehow it had turned into a full town event. Maddie stood in the middle of her cafe, watching in horror as the townspeople filled every available space, placing bets, whispering excitedly, and treating this like it was the finale of a cooking show. "I hate all of you," she announced. "Love you too, sweetheart," Brian said dryly, rolling up his sleeves. John grinned. "Try not to cry when you lose, man." Brian smirked. "Try not to burn down the kitchen." Maddie clapped her hands before John could respond. "All right, here are the rules. You each have 1 hour to bake something. No sabotaging each other, no fighting, and no turning this into some weird battle for dominance." John frowned. "That last one feels targeted." "It is targeted," Maddie deadpanned. "Now bake." Brian got to work immediately, measuring ingredients with the precision of someone who took baking very seriously. John, on the other hand, was frowning at the sugar like it had personally betrayed him. Maddie sighed. "John, do you even know what you're making?" "Not a clue," John admitted. "But I feel like I should be good at this." "You feel like it?" John nodded. "Like, deep in my soul, I know I've baked something amazing before." Lily leaned against the counter. "Or maybe you just watched a lot of Great British Bake Off before losing your memory." John gasped. "Oh my God, was I British?" Brian groaned. Mrs. Jenkins, munching on a cookie from the audience, sighed. "I bet $10 on John just for the entertainment factor." Maddie rubbed her temples. "I hate this town." John suddenly perked up. "I remember something." The entire cafe went silent. Even Brian looked interested. Maddie leaned forward. "What? What is it?" John's eyes widened. "I hate raisins." Brian threw down his whisk. "Oh, for God's sake." The cafe erupted into laughter. Maddie was never getting a normal life, was she? Chapter 5. Maddie had seen a lot of disasters in her life, but nothing could compare to the absolute chaos that was currently unfolding in her cafe's kitchen. John was covered in flour. Completely covered. His hair, his shirt, even his eyebrows were white. He looked like a ghost who had barely survived a baking explosion. Brian, on the other hand, was working with the calm, terrifying focus of a man who had a personal vendetta against his dough. "Why are you aggressively kneading?" Maddie asked, watching in mild horror. Brian didn't look up. "Because I need to win." John, meanwhile, was holding an egg like it might explode in his hands. "I know I've done this before," he muttered. "Why does it feel so foreign?" "You're thinking too hard about it," Maddie said. Just crack the John slammed the egg against the counter. The entire thing, shell and all, splattered onto his dough. Brian burst out laughing. Maddie buried her face in her hands. "I can't believe this is my life." Lily, who had been watching from the doorway with way too much amusement, took a sip of her coffee. "I love this. So much." John looked at his mess and pouted. "Okay, maybe I'm not a baker." Brian smirked. You think. John huffed. Shut up, Needzilla. Brian rolled his eyes, but didn't stop needing to Mrs. Jenkins, who had somehow secured a front row seat to the madness, leaned in. Maddie, honey, I know you're trying to act like you hate this, but I see that little smile. Maddie immediately wiped the smile off her face. No, you don't. Mrs. Jenkins just cackled. The timer dinged. Maddie took a deep breath. All right, moment of truth. Let's see what you two made. Brian presented a beautiful loaf of bread. Golden, fluffy, perfect. John presented something. Maddie blinked. John, what is that? John frowned at his tray. I was trying to make cookies, but they kind of merged into one giant blob. Brian smirked. I didn't know we were baking science experiments. John pouted. You don't know, man. This might be delicious. Maddie sighed. All right, time to taste. She really hoped she didn't die. Chapter 6. Maddie took a deep breath, staring at the so-called cookie blob John had placed in front of her. It looked concerning. Brian, of course, was smirking. His bread looked like something straight out of a baking magazine. The town loved him for it. John, however, was watching her with eager puppy dog eyes. Go on, try it. Maddie poked at the blob with a fork. It didn't move. That was a good sign, right? With the bravery of a woman who had truly given up on having a normal life, she broke off a piece and put it in her mouth, silenced. Mrs. Jenkins leaned forward in anticipation. Lily was grinning. The entire cafe was waiting. Maddie chewed. Then she blinked. Then she blinked again. Oh my God, she whispered. John's eyes widened. Is it good? Maddie swallowed, staring at the cookie abomination. It shouldn't be. It looks like a mistake. It tastes like a mistake. And yet, she hesitated. It's weirdly addicting. John gasped. I knew it. My instincts were right. Brian looked personally offended. There is no way that thing tastes better than my bread. Maddie turned to his loaf, broke off a piece, and popped it in her mouth. Immediate heaven. Oh, she breathed. Oh, this is, Brian smirked. Say it. Maddie sighed. Fine. Your bread is perfect. The cafe cheered. John groaned. I demand a rematch. Mrs. Jenkins snickered. Oh, honey, I don't think you can rematch against natural talent. John crossed his arms. Maddie liked mine too. I still have a chance. Brian snorted. Sure, if the goal was to make something confusing. Maddie, fully exhausted, collapsed into a chair. Can I go one day without absolute nonsense? Lily grinned. Where's the fun in that? Maddie had no response because, deep down, she knew this was just the beginning of the madness. Chapter 7. Maddie had so many regrets. She should have shut down the bake-off the moment John smashed an egg like it had personally insulted him. She should have thrown Brian's smug, bread-making self out of the cafe before he got too comfortable. But no, she let them stay. She let them compete. And now she was stuck between a grumpy, overconfident baker and an amnesiac werewolf who thought food experiments were a valid baking method. So, technically, John said, leaning on the counter, if Maddie liked both of ours, doesn't that mean we both won? Brian scoffed. No, it means I won. John pouted. That doesn't seem fair. Brian crossed his arms. Life isn't fair. Mrs. Jenkins, who had somehow become way too invested in this rivalry, cleared her throat. Sweetheart, let's be honest. Brian's bread was chef's kiss perfection. Your cookie thing, she hesitated. It had personality. John gasped. I knew it. I was a pioneer in my past life. Lily choked on her coffee. A pioneer in what, exactly? John thought for a moment. Experimental baking. Maddie dropped her head onto the counter with a thud. I hate all of you, she mumbled into the wood. Brian smirked. No, you don't. John nodded. Yeah, you love us. Maddie lifted her head just enough to glare at them. I tolerate you at best. Lily grinned. That's practically a love confession coming from you. Maddie reached for the nearest dish towel and threw it at her face. Lily caught it effortlessly, still grinning. Mrs. Jenkins sighed happily. This town hasn't been this exciting since Tom accidentally proposed to the wrong woman at the summer festival. John perked up. Wait, what? Brian rolled his eyes. Don't encourage her. Too late. Mrs. Jenkins was already launching into the story, and Maddie, defeated, exhausted, and fully aware that her life was never going to be normal again, just sat back and accepted her fate. This was her life now, and somehow, she didn't hate it. Chapter 8. Maddie had officially given up. At some point, she had tried to maintain some sense of normalcy in her life. But between a smug bread-making Brian, an overly confident yet terrible baker John, and an entire town that treated her cafe like a live soap opera, she had lost all control. Case in point. So what you're saying, Lily began, trying to suppress laughter. Is that John's cookie disaster was so addicting that people actually want to buy it? Maddie buried her face in her hands. I don't know how, but yes. Mrs. Jenkins was practically bouncing in her seat. I told you. That cookie had something special. John grinned. Maybe I was a genius chef before I lost my memory. Brian snorted. Or maybe the town has terrible taste. Mrs. Jenkins gasped dramatically. How dare you? John placed a hand over his heart. It's okay. He's just jealous that my creation is getting attention. Brian raised an unimpressed brow. You mean the thing that looks like a baking accident? John smirked. Exactly. Lily wiped a fake tear from her eye. This is the best thing that has ever happened to me. Maddie sighed. So now I have to put that on the menu? John beamed. Obviously. Brian muttered, unbelievable. Maddie glared at all of them. Fine, but I'm calling it the chaos cookie. The entire cafe cheered. John gasped. I love that. Mrs. Jenkins nodded approvingly. Oh, honey, that's marketing gold. Brian just shook his head, looking like he had given up on understanding the world. This town is insane. Maddie exhaled. You're just figuring that out? Brian met her gaze, and for a second, his lips twitched, like he was actually amused. Maddie felt something weird in her chest and immediately pushed it away. Nope, not happening. She was not going to have feelings for Mr. Smug Baker. John, completely unaware, grinned. All right, so who wants to help me recreate it? Brian and Maddie both answered at the same time. Brian, absolutely not. Maddie, please no. John just smiled wider. Maddie had a feeling she was going to regret everything. Chapter 9. Maddie's life had officially spiraled out of control. Not only had she somehow been forced to put John's chaos cookie on the menu, but now, people actually loved it. 3 orders of chaos cookies. Lily called out from the front counter. Maddie groaned. Why is this happening? John grinned as he stood beside her, confidently mixing the dough. Because I'm a genius, that's why. Brian, leaning against the counter with his arms crossed, let out a scoff. Genius? You accidentally made it. John smirked. And yet, here we are, selling out. Maddie shook her head in pure disbelief. I can't believe my cafe is known for this disaster of a dessert. Mrs. Jenkins, who had been sitting at her usual spot like she practically lived there, raised her coffee cup. This is the best thing that has ever happened to this town. Brian groaned. This town has 0 standards. John gasped. How dare you insult my artistic vision? Brian turned to Maddie. You cannot actually be okay with this. Maddie threw up her hands. I gave up controlling my life weeks ago. Lily snorted. That's the spirit. Just as Maddie was about to seriously consider throwing in her apron and running away, the cafe door slammed open. The entire cafe froze. A tall woman stood in the doorway, her dark eyes scanning the room. She had long, sleek black hair, and she carried herself with the kind of confidence that screamed danger. Maddie blinked. Who is that? Brian stiffened beside her. John, however, grinned. Oh, hey, I know you. The woman's gaze locked onto John, and she stalked toward him. Of course you do, because I'm here to bring you home. Maddie's stomach dropped. John had a home, and more importantly, who exactly was coming to take him back? Chapter 10. Maddie didn't know what was more unsettling, the fact that a mysterious woman had just stormed into her cafe demanding John go home with her, or the fact that John, sweet, clueless, amnesiac John, looked completely unbothered. John grinned. Oh wow, you know me? The woman pinched the bridge of her nose. Of course I know you. Everyone knows you. Brian muttered, "That's concerning." Maddie, standing between them like some kind of human shield, cleared her throat. Hi? Who exactly are you?" The woman's dark eyes flickered to her. "Miranda Hart." Maddie blinked. "Okay, and you're here because?" Miranda crossed her arms. "Because she jabbed a finger at John, is supposed to be with our pack." The cafe went silent. Maddie's brain short-circuited. "I'm sorry. Did you just say pack?" John's smile widened. "Oh, so I am in a wolf cult." Miranda groaned in frustration. "It's not a cult, John. You're a werewolf. An alpha werewolf." John gasped. "No way." Maddie choked on air. Brian, meanwhile, just buried his face in his hands. "This is so much worse than I thought." John looked down at himself, then at Maddie. "Did I do anything wolf-like?" Maddie, still recovering from absolute shock, thought about it. "You did sniff the air dramatically every time I bake something." Brian groaned. "Oh my God." John snapped his fingers. "Instincts." Miranda was not amused. "You idiot." Maddie, finally catching her breath, turned to her. "So, you're saying John is actually a werewolf? And he lost his memory?" Miranda nodded sharply. "Yes, and he needs to come back." John pouted. "But I like it here." Miranda's eye twitched. "That's not the point." Maddie suddenly realized something. If John had lost his memory and wasn't supposed to be here, then why was he drawn to her cafe in the first place? And why did he seem so attached to her? Chapter 11. Maddie was having a day. Scratch that. She was having a life crisis. John was a werewolf. A real werewolf. An alpha werewolf. And apparently, he was supposed to be with his pack, not hanging around her cafe, baking abominations and acting like a lost puppy. John, however, looked thrilled. "So, I'm, like, a big deal?" he asked Miranda. Miranda crossed her arms. "Yes, John, you are a big deal. You're supposed to be leading us." John gasped. "Oh my God, that explains so much." Brian scoffed. "It explains nothing." John ignored him and turned to Maddie, practically bouncing with excitement. "This means I wasn't just some random guy who ended up here. I had a purpose." Maddie, who had not fully processed the situation, just stared. Miranda sighed. "All right, enough of this. Let's go. Now." But John didn't move. Instead, he shifted slightly, standing closer to Maddie. "I don't want to go," he said. "Not yet." Miranda's eyes narrowed. "John, I like it here." He turned to Maddie with that same, goofy, completely unbothered smile. "I like her." Maddie froze. Brian's entire face twitched. Miranda groaned. "Oh, for seriously?" John shrugged. "She makes really good cookies." Brian scowled. "That's your reason?" John hesitated, then looked back at Maddie, his smile softening just a little. "Anne, I feel like I'm supposed to be here." Maddie's heart did a weird little jump. She did not like that. "Nope, not one bit." Miranda, clearly done with this conversation, pinched the bridge of her nose. "John, you don't even remember who you are. You're just confused." John's expression faltered. Maddie, for reasons she did not want to analyze, immediately felt bad. What if he stays until he remembers? She found herself saying. Brian whipped his head toward her. "What?" Miranda sighed. "And what if he never does?" Maddie bit her lip. John, despite literally everything, just smiled again. "Guess I'll be here forever then." Maddie had a very bad feeling about that. Chapter 12. Maddie had no idea how her life had spiraled into this level of chaos. A week ago, she was just a normal cafe owner, trying to make a living in a small town where bizarre things happened way too often. Now she had an amnesiac werewolf living in her apartment. Brian was not happy about it. "This is a terrible idea," he grumbled as he leaned against her kitchen counter, arms crossed. Maddie sighed, rubbing her temples. "Do you think I want this? Do you think I woke up and said, 'Hey, I'd love for a werewolf to crash on my couch'?" John, sitting at the kitchen table, grinned. You love me?" Maddie threw a dish towel at his face. John caught it easily. "That was very aggressive." Brian groaned. "You are both ridiculous." Miranda, who had been watching all of this with an exhausted expression, finally spoke. Look, I still think this is a terrible plan, but if John insists on staying, fine. But when he gets his memory back, I'll still be amazing, John said, flashing a thumbs up. Miranda's eye twitched. Maddie slumped into a chair. This is my life now. Brian exhaled sharply, clearly 1 second away from losing his mind. And what if other werewolves come looking for him? Miranda nodded. That's what I'm worried about. Maddie frowned. Wait, other werewolves? Miranda gave her a look. You really think we're the only ones? Maddie felt her soul leave her body. John, completely unbothered, shrugged. I dunno, I think I can handle it. Brian scoffed. You don't even remember how to shift. John gasped. Wait, I can do that? Miranda buried her face in her hands. We're so doomed. Maddie just stared at the ceiling, silently praying for one normal day. Just one. Spoiler alert. She wasn't going to get it. Chapter 13. Maddie was so done. Not only had she unknowingly taken in an amnesiac alpha werewolf, but now she had to deal with the possibility of more werewolves showing up at her cafe like it was some kind of supernatural tourist attraction. Brian, naturally, was furious about this. This is the worst idea you've ever had, he grumbled. Pacing her kitchen like an angry, suit-wearing wolf, Maddie, sitting at the table, rested her chin in her hands. Oh, trust me. I know. John, meanwhile, was completely unbothered. I don't see the big deal, he said, eating yet another chaos cookie. If more werewolves come, we just... I dunno, deal with it. Brian stopped pacing. Oh, just deal with it. He gestured wildly. Like it's nothing? John nodded. Exactly. Brian looked like he was about to combust. Miranda, who had been scrolling through her phone, finally spoke. Well, if it makes you feel any better, we might not have to wait long. Maddie sat up. What do you mean? Miranda sighed, tossing her phone onto the table. I got a message from the pack. They know John is here. Silence. Then, John. Oh, exciting. Brian, this is not exciting. Maddie. Oh, for the love of... Miranda rubbed her temples. They're sending someone. Maddie nearly fell out of her chair. Someone? Miranda nodded grimly. And trust me, they won't be as patient as me. John tilted his head. So, like, are they coming to fight me? Miranda gave him a look. You're their alpha. They're coming to drag you back where you belong. Maddie's stomach twisted. John. Gone, it shouldn't have mattered. He wasn't really hers to worry about. But somehow, the thought of him just leaving, she didn't like it. And, judging by the way John suddenly looked serious for the first time, maybe he didn't like it either. Chapter 14. Maddie had exactly one goal. Survive whatever was coming to Brian's goal? Probably not commit murder out of sheer frustration. John's goal? Unclear. Miranda had just dropped the bombshell that the pack was sending someone to retrieve John, and instead of being concerned, he was now standing by the cafe window, squinting into the distance like he was expecting a delivery. Maddie crossed her arms. What are you doing? John shrugged, waiting to see if they show up dramatically. Brian groaned. I hate you. Miranda, arms crossed, watched John carefully. This isn't a joke. They aren't just here for a chat. John finally turned to face them, his usual grin missing. I know. Maddie blinked. That was new. For once, John wasn't cracking a joke or grinning like he was immune to stress. He actually looked serious. Are you okay? Maddie asked hesitantly. John looked at her. His expression softened. I don't want to leave, he admitted. I know I'm supposed to, but he rubbed the back of his neck. Something about this place feels right. Maddie's heart did something weird and annoying. Brian sighed heavily. That's called avoiding responsibility. John ignored him. I just don't think I'm ready. Miranda frowned. And if they don't give you a choice? John's jaw tightened. Maddie hated this. She hated that he might be forced into something when he clearly wasn't ready, and she really hated that she was starting to care too much. The door slammed open. Maddie jumped. A man stood in the doorway. Tall, broad-shouldered, and clearly a werewolf. His sharp eyes locked onto John immediately. Maddie's stomach dropped. This was it. They had come for him, and judging by John's expression, he finally understood. His time here was running out. Chapter 15. Maddie did not sign up for this. The towering werewolf in her doorway was practically radiating intimidation. The cafe had never been so silent. Even the quirky townspeople had cleared out, probably sensing the oncoming storm. John, ever fearless, or just blissfully clueless, tilted his head. "Hey there. Do I know you?" The man's sharp gaze flickered to Miranda. "You told us he had amnesia. I didn't think you meant he was this bad." Miranda sighed. "I warned you." Brian, standing protectively beside Maddie, scowled. "Who are you?" The man straightened. "Elias, beta of John's pack." His gaze shifted back to John. "And I'm here to bring you home." Maddie's heart sank. John blinked. "Oh!" He looked at Maddie, then at Brian, then at the cafe like he was actually thinking about this. And then he said, "Nah." Brian choked. Maddie gasped. Miranda face-bombed. Elias stared. "Nah." John shrugged. "I like it here. The food's good. The people are questionable, but fun. I have a nice life, so yeah. Nah." Maddie was so stupidly relieved that she had to physically stop herself from grinning. Elias, however, was not amused. "You don't get to just say no. You have a duty, John." John actually frowned. "But what if I don't want to be alpha?" Silenced. Elias's jaw clenched. Miranda looked surprised. Brian muttered something that sounded suspiciously like, "I hate this idiot." Maddie's heart pounded. "Then what do you want?" Elias asked, voice low. John turned to Maddie. Her breath caught. "And then, I think," John said, his voice softer than she'd ever heard it, "I want to stay here." Maddie froze. Brian cursed. Miranda groaned. Elias looked 1 second away from dragging John out by force, and Maddie realized something dangerous. She wanted him to stay. Epilogue. It had been 2 weeks since Elias stormed into Maddie's cafe, demanding John return to his pack. And John was still here. Maddie didn't know how it happened. Elias had been ready to physically drag John back, but after a very intense conversation, and somehow John convincing him that good food was worth staying for, Elias had left, reluctantly. Miranda had warned them that this wasn't over. The pack would come again. They'd expect answers, but for now, John was still here, and Maddie was still hopelessly in denial about how much she liked that. She leaned against the counter, watching as John attempted to make another batch of his signature chaos cookies. Brian sat at a table, arms crossed, looking like he was contemplating quitting life. Miranda sipped her coffee, eyeing John like he was a disaster waiting to happen. John, completely unbothered as usual, grinned at Maddie. "So, you're saying if I accidentally set the kitchen on fire again, you'd still let me stay?" Maddie rolled her eyes. "No, but I would call the fire department first before kicking you out." "That's love," John said dramatically. Brian groaned. "This is painful to watch." Miranda muttered, "I don't know what's worse, the werewolf drama or the slow burn disaster happening in front of me." Maddie ignored them because, honestly, she had no idea what the future held. But for now, John was here, and that was enough.